flying south. Final chapter. Homecoming. It was the evening, the sky was orange and the sun was setting. Meanwhile, Andy, Nick, Diego, Rose were flying over the river heading towards Africa. Oh geez, how much farther is Africa? Diego moaned, annoyed. I'm sure we were close, Andy said happily. Rose looked at the sky. Whoa, the sky is so beautiful, Rose moaned happily. I wish Daddy was here, Nick moaned in sadness. Me too, Nick, Andy said, saddened while tears were forming in his eyes. Then, Andy spotted a large island up ahead. Andy's eyes widened in shock. Guys, look, it's Africa, Andy yelled excitedly. Oh sweet, finally, Diego yelled excitedly. Come on, let's go, Andy announced excitedly. Andy, Nick, Diego, Rose flew towards Africa. Moments later, Mrs. Mallard was eating red cherries. When suddenly, she heard someone call her name. Mother, Andy yelled in the distance. Mrs. Mallard turned around, and her eyes widened in shock. She saw Andy and Nick flying towards her. Andy, Nick, Mrs. Mallard gasped in shock. Andy and Nick flew right into Mrs. Mallard's chest. They all hugged each lovingly, wrapping their feathers around each other. Oh, thank goodness you both are all right, Mrs. Mallard moaned softly while crying. Me too, Mommy, Nick moaned happily while crying. Where's your father? Mrs. Mallard asked, confused. Andy looked at her with a saddened look. Mrs. knew by the expression on Andy's face. I understand, Mrs. Mallard said softly while crying. But I'm just glad you two are here, Mrs. exclaimed happily while crying. Andy, Nick, Mrs. hugged each other lovingly. Andy looked up at the sky and saw his father's constellation. Andy smiled happily while tears were streaming from his face.